Caleb's world tilted after a night of blurred passion. Mason stood in the doorway, his face a stormy mask. He demanded to know about the Omega from last night. Caleb looked at Mason's disgusted expression. He instinctively lied to protect himself. He claimed ignorance, suggesting it couldn't be him. He reminded Mason that he was a beta. Caleb forced a smile, hiding his clenched fists. He had forgotten one crucial detail. Mason despised Omegas more than anything. To hide his new status, Caleb started avoiding Mason. He declined invitations to walk together. He rose before dawn and returned late at night. Mason's brow grew heavier with each passing day. Caleb's heart hammered in his chest. He feared his secret was close to being exposed. He immediately applied to move out of the dorm. But Mason appeared suddenly outside his door. He was supposed to be in class. His tall frame cast a long shadow over Caleb. Mason asked what he had done wrong. He questioned why Caleb was pushing him away. The day began before the sun rose. Caleb crept out of bed, his face burning hot. He rushed into the bathroom with his underwear. He turned the water on to its quietest trickle. A strange mark stained the fabric. He thought he was long past puberty. These dreams were becoming more frequent. A voice asked if he was washing his underwear. Caleb spun around, startled by the sound. He tried to hide the garment behind his back. But Mason had already seen everything. He wrapped an arm around Caleb's waist. Mason used his height to peer over his shoulder. He teased Caleb about being frustrated. Mason flashed a brilliant, knowing smile. He then plunged his hands into the soapy water. He started washing the small piece of clothing. He mentioned his promise to Caleb's mother. He had to take good care of him. Caleb covered his face, trying to cool his skin. He told himself not to overthink it. Mason could joke like this without any hidden meaning. Caleb watched him hum a tune while he worked. Mason seemed to genuinely enjoy the task. He reminded Caleb that his hands were sensitive. The harsh soap could cause a rash. Mason insisted on handling these small chores. Ever since they became roommates, he did everything. Outsiders saw Mason as a cool business major. They would never guess his domestic talents. Caleb and Mason grew up together. Their families were incredibly close. They knew each other better than anyone. But something shifted during their teen years. Caleb realized his feelings had changed. Caleb, was in love with his best friend. He couldn't watch Mason wash his underwear anymore. He changed the subject to distract himself. He asked Mason if he was wearing cologne. Lately, a faint scent always clung to him. It was a sweet, alluring fragrance. If Caleb weren't a beta, he'd think it was pheromones. Mason denied wearing any cologne. He suggested it was probably his body wash. He lifted his arm and sniffed. He did mention his heat was approaching soon. Caleb simply nodded, not giving it much thought. That night, a fever consumed him. He found himself collapsed on Mason's bed. He curled into a ball, seeking comfort. He inhaled the scent deeply from the sheets. But his body felt increasingly strange. A slick wetness gathered between his legs. The room filled with an intoxicating aroma. Caleb realized the scent was Mason's pheromones, and he was reacting to them. He had differentiated into an omega. His mind was a haze of heat and confusion. He knew this was wrong, but he had no control. He arched his back on the bed, trembling. It wasn't enough. The need was overwhelming. Tears of desperation streamed down his face. His consciousness began to fade away. The dorm room door swung open. Two powerful waves of pheromones crashed together. The air became thick with their combined scents. What followed was a chaotic blur. There was shame, pain, and incredible pleasure. Caleb could only shiver and weep through it all. When he opened his eyes again, Mason was there. He was asleep and naked beside him. Panic seized Caleb with an icy grip. He ignored the sticky fluid on his thighs. He threw on his clothes haphazardly. Then he limped out of the room and disappeared. Caleb buttoned his shirt, offering a weak smile. Leo, another Omega, leaned against the doorframe. Caleb thanked him for his help. He had run from the dorm building in a daze. He realized running through campus was a bad idea. His scent would attract unwanted attention. Fortunately, he had run into Leo. Leo brought him home without any questions. He gave him suppressants and a change of clothes. Leo told him not to mention it. He then looked at Caleb with a knowing gaze. He finally asked if Mason had slept with him. Caleb nearly choked on his water. He quickly denied that anything had happened. Leo just pinched his nose in exasperation. He told Caleb he smelled exactly like Mason. Caleb blushed, admitting his friend was right. He then begged Leo to keep it a secret from Mason. Leo looked completely baffled by the request. He asked why he would need to keep it secret. He assumed Mason knew what had happened. Caleb's breath caught in his throat. A bitter smile touched his lips as he looked down. He explained that Mason didn't remember. He showed Leo his phone with a grim look. Several missed calls from Mason lit up the screen. Earlier, Caleb had stared at the incoming call. He was filled with both fear and a sliver of hope. They had been friends for so many years. Maybe Mason wouldn't mind that he was an Omega. He took a deep breath to steady his nerves. He answered the phone with a trembling hand. Mason's words were like a bucket of ice water. He asked if Caleb had been gone all night. Caleb froze, unsure how to respond. He finally managed to force out a lie. He claimed he had been at the lab. The line was silent for a long moment. Then Mason's low voice came through. He said an Omega in heat had been in their room. He asked Caleb if he knew who it was. Caleb dug his nails into his palms. The pain helped him produce a shaky laugh. He joked that he wouldn't know. He again said he was just a beta. He hung up before Mason could reply. If he had stayed on the line, he would have cried. His phone buzzed again immediately, but Caleb lacked the courage to answer it. He squatted on the busy sidewalk, defeated. Tears streamed down his face unchecked. His body ached from the night before, but he knew their friendship was over. Mason hated Omegas with a passion, and Caleb had become the one thing he loathed. Luckily, Mason did not know it was him. Caleb wiped his tears, trying to be strong. If he hid his new status, they could still be friends. Leo listened to the whole story, stunned. His jaw hung open in disbelief. He had a conflicted look on his face. Then his eyes lit up with an idea. He suddenly burst into loud laughter. He told Caleb he supported his decision. Leo opened his laptop, fingers flying across keys. He offered to hack the security cameras nearby. Leo was a computer science prodigy. He looked up from his screen and winked. He told Caleb to consider him if things failed with Mason. Caleb didn't know how to respond. Leo playfully accused him of discriminating. He remembered Leo had confessed to him before. Leo then gave him a comforting hug. He reassured Caleb he was only kidding. He said he was over his crush now. He patted Caleb's back gently. He released his own calming pheromones. Caleb finally broke down in his friend's arms. When he returned to school, it was afternoon. The door to their dorm room was wide open. Workers in uniforms were removing furniture. They carried out the mattress and cabinets. Others in masks sprayed disinfectant everywhere. Mason was nowhere to be seen. Only the sound of a shower came from the bathroom. Caleb walked inside the stripped room. A worker explained the situation. Mr. Evans had ordered a full deep clean. He wanted all bedding and clothes replaced. Mason truly hated omegas that much. Caleb picked at a hangnail anxiously. Hiding the truth was the right choice. The workers left, but the shower kept running. Caleb knocked on the bathroom door. There was no response from inside. Worried, he pushed the door open. Mason stood with his back to him under the spray. His pale back was tense and rigid. The bathroom was filled with cold air. Caleb rushed over and grabbed his arm. His fingertips touched ice-cold skin. Mason was taking a freezing shower in early spring. Caleb cursed, calling him a lunatic. He pulled the shivering man out of the stall. Mason's voice was thick with emotion. He whispered that he wasn't clean. Caleb was stunned by his words. Mason suddenly wrapped his arms around him tightly. He begged Caleb not to look at him. He buried his wet face in Caleb's shoulder. His body shook with heartbroken sobs. He cried that he couldn't wash the feeling away. He felt so dirty and disgusting. He asked if Caleb would still want him. Caleb spent a long time calming him down. Mason's emotions finally stabilized, but he refused to let go of Caleb. They walked out of the bathroom together. Caleb managed to get the tall alpha onto his bed. Mason then clutched his sleeve like a child. He insisted that Caleb lie down with him. Caleb sighed and climbed into the narrow bed. Their bodies were pressed closely together. Suddenly, Mason's expression shifted. He frowned and began sniffing Caleb's clothes. His handsome face turned dark with anger. He asked about the omega scent on Caleb. Caleb thought his own pheromones were leaking. He nervously tried to move away. Mason sat up, his eyes narrowed. He also pointed out Caleb's unfamiliar clothes. He sniffed at him like a dog. Then he spat out a name with venom. Leo. Caleb explained he had borrowed the clothes. Mason's voice rose with jealousy. He demanded to know what they had done. He reminded Caleb that he had rejected Leo. He accused the other Omega of being persistent. Caleb told him not to jump to conclusions. Mason declared that Omegas were no good. He ordered Caleb to stay away from Leo. Caleb's patience finally wore thin. He asked what if he were an Omega too. He tried to reason with his friend. He said judging people by their designation was wrong. But Mason reacted with intense hostility. He demanded to know why Caleb defended Leo. He shouted that he hated Omegas, period. Caleb sighed, knowing the reason for his hatred. Their families had joked about an Omega match for Mason. A young Mason had thrown a massive tantrum. He swore he'd rather be a eunuch. He hated his own alpha status just as much. He often wished he were a beta like Caleb. Mason viewed alphas and omegas as slaves to instinct. He was always cruel to omegas who confessed to him. Caleb was always the one to offer them a tissue. This annoyed Mason to no end. But Caleb always insisted love was never wrong. Caleb had loved Mason for 6 years. The secret was a part of him now. His beta status had seemed like a blessing. But the events of that night shattered his dreams. He sent a message to a jeweler. He canceled the custom rings he had ordered. He stared at the design for a long time. A dull ache spread through his chest. He had planned to propose with those rings. Now he already knew the answer. After that day, Mason became even more attached. He followed Caleb to class. He even stood beside him at the urinal. He commented on personal details. Caleb finally snapped and told him to get lost. While annoyed, Caleb got a text from Leo. It was an article on omega physiology. Leo asked if they had used protection. Caleb almost replied that betas can't get pregnant. Then he remembered his new reality. He was a newly differentiated omega. He panicked. Leo panicked too. Leo urged him to buy an omega pregnancy test. He offered to go to the clinic with him later. A voice interrupted his thoughts. Mason stood there looking like a kicked puppy. He complained that Caleb wasn't paying attention. But Caleb was too distracted to care. He made an excuse and hurried away. He went to a pharmacy in a different neighborhood. He bought the test kit secretively. He returned to the dorm, hiding it in his pocket. Mason was waiting for him at the door. Caleb fought the urge to turn and run. He asked why Mason was standing outside. Mason's expression seemed unusually dark. He claimed he forgot his key. Caleb unlocked the door under his intense gaze. The moment they were inside, Mason acted. He pinned Caleb against the door. He accused Caleb of hiding something. Caleb tried to remain silent and still. Mason chuckled, a humorless sound. He began tickling Caleb with one hand. His other hand darted into Caleb's pocket. Caleb cried out, but it was too late. Mason held the small box up high. A triumphant, teasing smile was on his face. He wanted to see Caleb's hidden treasure. His smile vanished in the next second. He read the words on the box in disbelief. Omega, pregnancy, test. Caleb, filled with shame and anger, punched him. He demanded Mason return the box. Mason grunted but did not let go. He asked why a beta would buy such a thing. His mind raced to a terrible conclusion. He asked if Caleb had gotten an omega pregnant. His face grew darker with every word. He asked if Caleb had slept with an omega. Mason suddenly lifted Caleb's sweatshirt. Caleb's face flushed a deep crimson. His skin bruised and marked easily. Faint red marks still littered his chest. They were all made by the man before him. But the culprit had no memory of his crime. Mason stared at the marks, his eyes burning. He demanded to know who did this. He asked which Omega Caleb had been with. He accused Leo again, his voice shaking with rage. A sharp slap echoed in the quiet room. Caleb had struck him across the face. He couldn't stand the baseless accusations. Mason held his cheek, his eyes filled with tears. He looked utterly betrayed and heartbroken. Caleb's hand tingled with the impact. Regret instantly washed over him. He wanted to check Mason's face, but the words wouldn't come out. Mason's eyes were full of devastation. He didn't rage or yell anymore. The room plunged into a frozen silence. Caleb's regret grew with each passing second. He was about to apologize, but Mason turned and ran out of the room. Caleb started to follow, but his phone rang. It was Leo asking if he had taken the test yet. Caleb admitted he hadn't had the chance. Leo fretted about the high chance of pregnancy. He said the home tests weren't always accurate. He had already scheduled a clinic appointment. He told Caleb to come to the hospital now. After the tests, they waited for the results. Leo asked what Caleb would do if he were pregnant. Caleb shook his head, admitting he didn't know. He touched his stomach, a mix of emotions swirling. Not long ago, this was impossible. Now, a new life might be growing inside him. 10 minutes later, he sat in the doctor's office. He waited anxiously for the verdict. The doctor announced he was not pregnant. Leo let out a huge sigh of relief beside him. But Caleb felt a strange pang of disappointment. The doctor explained it was harder for late-blooming omegas. His body was not fully adapted yet. The doctor offered some blunt advice for the future. He even made a cheering gesture. Caleb's face turned bright red. He mumbled his thanks and quickly left. That night, Caleb returned with a soothing cream. He wanted to apologize for the slap. Mason was very proud of his handsome face. But Mason didn't come back to the dorm. It was the first time he'd ever stayed out all night. Caleb lay awake, realizing how angry Mason was. He tossed and turned, staring at his phone. His thumb hovered over Mason's contact. He reminded himself he needed this distance. Slowly, they could drift apart. It was probably for the best. The next morning, Mason's bed was still empty. Caleb's heart sank a little further. He went to brush his teeth, his mood grim. Then he saw fresh laundry hanging on the balcony. He checked his phone and saw a new message. Mason had sent it early that morning. It was a cartoon rabbit holding a white flag. A small smile touched Caleb's lips. He replied with a regal, forgiving emoji. Mason immediately sent back a grateful one. Caleb laughed but then grew serious again. Mason was a good person. To stay by his side, he had to hide his secret. He had to keep his distance. They sat together in their shared lecture. Mason had saved him a seat as usual. They didn't speak of the fight. Caleb was relieved by the silent truce. He thought they could maintain this new boundary. But after class, Mason's arm was around him again. He suggested a restaurant with Caleb's favorite fish. Caleb remembered his plan to create distance. He gently removed Mason's arm. He claimed he was too busy with his lab work. Mason offered to go to the campus cafeteria instead. Caleb pretended to check his messages. He said his professor needed him urgently. He told Mason to eat without him. Mason persisted, offering to bring him food. He followed Caleb all the way to the science building. The lab required fingerprint access. It was the one place Mason couldn't follow. Caleb gave him a small wave through the glass. Then he quickly disappeared inside. During his experiment, he ignored Mason's texts. His lab partner suddenly spoke up. He mentioned Caleb's rich friend was very thoughtful. Mason had messaged him asking about their workload. He offered to buy food for the whole lab. Caleb realized Mason had everyone's contact info. He quickly asked his lab mates for a favor. He told them to say he was extremely busy. A grad student teased him about a lover's quarrel. Caleb insisted they were just friends. They all laughed but agreed to help him. He opened his chat with Mason. There were over a dozen unread messages. Photos of cafeteria food. A picture of a pretty cat on campus. A message asking if they could adopt one someday. Another text asked when His Royal Highness was free. Caleb quickly replied that he was busy. He said he would probably stay at the lab all night. Mason didn't reply immediately this time. A long while later, a simple okay appeared. Caleb's strategy was to reduce their time together. He used the lab as his excuse. Their time together dwindled significantly. Things were progressing as planned. Except for the perpetual storm cloud on Mason's face. Caleb thought he was safe. Then one day, Mason came back to the dorm unexpectedly. Caleb was in the middle of changing his clothes. Mason waved his hand in front of his face. He complained about a strong omega smell. Caleb's heart leaped into his throat. He rushed to open the window for ventilation. He asked if the smell was that strong. Mason's brow furrowed in disgust. He said the scent was overwhelming. Caleb was using his suppressants diligently. He couldn't understand how Mason could smell him. Mason continued sniffing the air like a bloodhound. He noted that betas couldn't detect pheromones. He grumbled about inconsiderate people. As he spoke, he started releasing his own scent. He moved closer to Caleb, still sniffing. He insisted there was a strange omega scent on him. He asked who Caleb had seen today. The sudden flood of alpha pheromones startled Caleb. Mason was completely unaware of the effect. He thought Caleb was an immune beta. He surrounded Caleb with his powerful scent. Caleb's face flushed a deep red. The back of his neck began to burn. A wave of heat shot through his body. He violently pushed Mason away. Then he fled the room in a blind panic. He paced in a secluded grove for a long time. He waited until the scent had dissipated. His racing mind finally cleared. This wasn't working. He couldn't control Mason. He couldn't ask him to suppress his scent in their room. In Mason's eyes, Caleb wouldn't even notice it. Anxiety gnawed at him. He made a firm decision. He had to move out of the dorm. He submitted the application that very night. The process was surprisingly fast. A few days later, his advisor called him in. He needed to return his dorm key. He chose a time when Mason was in class. But a figure emerged from the shadows outside. A tall silhouette blocked his path. He turned and was pressed against the wall. It was Mason, his eyes dark and intense. He asked Caleb what he had done wrong. He demanded to know why Caleb was avoiding him. Caleb tried to deny it, blaming his busy schedule. Mason laughed, a cold and bitter sound. He questioned Caleb's choice to move farther away. He slammed his fist into the wall beside Caleb's head. He revealed that the new roommate had already arrived. That was how he discovered Caleb's plan. Mason was breathing heavily, his chest heaving. He covered his eyes with his hand. His voice cracked with emotion. He asked why Caleb was doing this. He looked up, tears streaming down his face. He asked if their long friendship meant so little. Was it worth less than some random Omega? Caleb's heart ached at the sight. He reached out to wipe away the tears. He told Mason there was no other Omega. But Mason turned his face away from his touch. He sobbed even harder. He asked about the pregnancy test. Caleb dismissed it as a misunderstanding. Mason was not convinced. His voice trembled as he asked about the marks. He begged Caleb not to lie to him anymore. He said anyone could see what they were. One lie had led to a mountain of others. Caleb's eyes stung with unshed tears. He adopted a detached, careless tone. He said they were both adults. Meeting physical needs was a normal thing. Suddenly, Mason lifted him off the ground. Caleb was thrown over his shoulder. He struggled, but Mason was too strong. Mason tossed him onto the bed in the dorm. He loomed over Caleb, his eyes red from crying. His gaze was like a predator's. He said he could help with those needs too. He lowered his head, his face close to Caleb's belt. Caleb panicked, pushing at his face. He felt the wetness of tears on his hands. Mason's own tears dripped onto Caleb's stomach. He asked why he wasn't good enough. He sounded completely broken. He pleaded with Caleb not to abandon him. He swore he was clean now. As he spoke, his breath brushed a sensitive spot. An involuntary gasp escaped Caleb's lips. Mason felt the reaction against his cheek. A flicker of hope lit up his eyes. He knew Caleb was not indifferent to him. The hot breath on his bare skin was too much. A choked sob finally broke from Caleb. He called Mason a bastard. At the sound of his cry, Mason froze. He immediately pulled away, looking horrified. But Caleb's tears wouldn't stop. Days of stress and sorrow came pouring out. He buried his face in the covers and wept. Mason knelt beside the bed, helpless. He gently patted Caleb's back. Then he carefully gathered Caleb into his arms. He wrapped the blanket around them both. His pheromones shifted, becoming soft and soothing. Caleb was enveloped in Mason's comforting scent. Felt like being submerged in warm water. His sobs slowly subsided, but Mason's breathing became ragged. Caleb turned to look at him. He felt something hard pressing against his hip. He looked at Mason with wide eyes. Mason stammered, his face turning red. He swore he wasn't a pervert. He covered his nose, looking confused. He said the room suddenly smelled amazing. Caleb's eyes widened in horror. He had been unconsciously releasing his own scent. The two fragrances had mingled and fused. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He was going into heat. Mason's expression changed from confusion to shock. He finally understood the source of the scent. He stared at Caleb in utter disbelief. He stammered that Caleb was an Omega. Caleb's first instinct was to flee. He scrambled to get off the bed. Mason grabbed his ankle to stop him. He then released him as if burned. Sweat beaded on the Alpha's forehead. He looked like he was fighting a great battle. He told Caleb not to be afraid. He promised he would not hurt him. But Caleb was overwhelmed by the Alpha's pheromones. He collapsed back onto the bed, flushed and weak. He could only watch as Mason moved over him. His hands clenched in Mason's hair. He bit his lip to keep from making a sound. The Alpha below him murmured softly. He told Caleb not to bite himself. A soft cry finally escaped Caleb's throat. He begged him not to talk while doing that. Later, Mason went to the bathroom. Caleb lay on the bed, mortified. He heard the sound of the faucet. Then the shower started running again. A feeling of dread settled in his stomach. He waited for 30 minutes. The water kept running. Mason did not come out. He was avoiding him. The reality of the situation crashed down. His best friend was now his worst nightmare. Mason was probably horrified by the truth. He must know Caleb was the Omega from that night. He remembered Mason scrubbing his skin raw. Anxiety twisted inside him. It was all his fault. He shouldn't have been in the dorm. His pheromones had triggered Mason's rut. Their friendship was irrevocably broken. He sat up, his mind a blank. What was he supposed to do now? He quietly stood up and left the room. If Mason couldn't say it, he would leave. He went to the off-campus apartment he had rented. He got a video call from his parents. They were on a month-long trip to Europe. His Omega father was nestled against his Alpha mother. They asked where he was, noting it wasn't his dorm. He told them he had rented an apartment. His father immediately expressed concern. He worried about him living alone. His mother agreed, asking about Mason. Caleb was baffled by their sudden interest. They had always been very hands-off parents. Now they were worried about his safety. They insisted he give them the address. He told them, and they abruptly ended the call. He shrugged and ordered some food. 10 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. He was surprised by the fast delivery. He opened the door and his heart stopped. Mason stood there, breathing heavily. Caleb's first instinct was to slam the door shut. Mason stuck his hand out to block it. The door closed on his fingers. A red mark immediately appeared on his knuckles. Mason hissed in pain but didn't move his hand. Caleb quickly opened the door again. He reached for Mason's hand to check the damage. But Mason pulled him into a desperate hug. He said he was terrified when he found Caleb gone. His scent was laced with anxiety. He finally pulled back, his eyes intense. He looked directly at Caleb. He stated that the Omega from that night was Caleb. It was not a question. Caleb knew he could no longer deny it. He looked down, giving his silent confession. A faint blush appeared on Mason's cheeks. He cleared his throat, suddenly looking confident. He accused Caleb of taking his first time. Then he said Caleb ran away without taking responsibility. Caleb was speechless. Mason wanted him to be responsible. He remembered how distraught Mason had been. But he supposed Mason was a traditional Alpha. Mason pressed him for an answer. Caleb pushed him away gently. He reminded Mason how much he hated Omegas. He asked about his vow to never submit to pheromones. Mason declared he didn't hate Omegas anymore. Caleb stared at the sudden, drastic change. He wondered if his friend was possessed. Mason clutched his chest dramatically. He acted as if his heart was breaking. He announced that he would have to pursue Caleb. Caleb was still processing everything. Mason babbled about his plans for wooing him. He promised to continue until Caleb agreed. He then gave Caleb a quick peck on the cheek. He turned and ran off down the hall. Caleb was left standing in the doorway, completely stunned. Mason's pursuit was relentless. He showed up to cook and clean. He brought flowers to the lab every day. He endured the teasing of Caleb's lab mates. He tried to learn how to cook in Caleb's apartment. He posed with a spatula, asking if he looked charming. Caleb couldn't help but laugh at his antics. They saw children playing in a park one evening. Mason commented on how cute they were. Caleb got goosebumps at the strange comment. He reminded Mason that he used to hate kids. Mason explained that was the past. He then posted on all his social media. He, Mason Evans, now officially liked Omegas. His friends flooded the comments with questions. They joked that graduate school had finally broken him. His grand romantic gestures only paused for a conference. His professor dragged him to an out-of-town summit. Caleb finally had a moment to breathe. He met Leo at a campus coffee shop. He confessed he was happy about Mason's pursuit, but he was also scared it was temporary. Mason's previous hatred felt too real. He asked Leo for his honest opinion. Leo was staring at his phone with a grimace. He was muttering something under his breath. He said Mason was finally done pretending. Caleb asked him to repeat himself. Leo looked at him with a complicated expression. He sighed and said Mason's feelings were genuine. He told Caleb he should accept him. A blush crept up Caleb's neck. Leo smiled, a genuine and happy smile. He wished his friend all the best. When Caleb got home, a figure lunged at him. Mason held him in a tight embrace. His voice was choked with emotion. He called himself the world's biggest idiot. Caleb gently pulled Mason's face away. He asked why he was crying again. Mason wiped his eyes furiously. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a pair of silver rings. He showed Caleb the letters engraved inside. M and C. He asked with a trembling voice if C was him. He asked if Caleb liked him back. Caleb's eyes filled with tears. These were the rings he had designed, the rings he had given up on. Now they were being presented by the man he loved. He finally confessed his feelings. He had loved him for a very long time. Before he could finish, Mason's lips were on his. Their tears mingled in the passionate kiss. When they finally parted, Mason rested his forehead on Caleb's. He confessed his own long-held secret. He had loved Caleb since the day they met. He said he felt like the luckiest man alive. Caleb laughed through his tears, calling him a fool. He felt the exact same way. He sent a thank you message to the jeweler. Then he and Mason stayed up all night talking. Mason was ecstatic to learn about Caleb's old crush. He kissed him until Caleb's lips were numb. Then he turned serious for a moment. He said they had already wasted 6 years. He calculated they should have been together at 18. They were now 24. He jokingly estimated they had missed over 600 encounters. He declared they had to make up for lost time. He lifted Caleb into his arms, whispering in his ear. He asked if they could start with 7 tonight. The next afternoon, Caleb slowly woke up. Mason was sitting beside him, happily scrolling on his phone. He had announced their relationship to the world. He posted a long, romantic story about them. He thanked everyone for their good wishes. He proclaimed their love would last forever. Caleb smiled, feeling brave himself. He dialed his mother's number. He took a deep breath and told her the news. He and Mason were together. There was a brief silence on the other end. Then his mother sounded surprised. She asked why he was telling her something she knew. She said they had been dating since high school. She recalled Mason's mother worrying about their studies. She had told her not to worry. Caleb hung up the phone in a state of shock. He saw Mason standing on the balcony. He was on the phone with his own parents. His voice drifted in on the breeze. He was talking about getting married after graduation. Sunlight illuminated Mason's joyful face. Happiness felt real and within his grasp.